Hi family, my name is Key. Welcome to my journey and also welcome to another little mini series that I'm going to create called What Are We Healing Now? This week is all about abandonment issues. I did do another video on abandonment issues last year, which I will pin somewhere up here. But today I wanted to go a little bit more into detail, share some more knowledge with you all that I've learned. And yeah, let's work through this together. If abandonment issues is something that you are dealing with and trying to work past, I hope that this video will be very informative for you and give you some tips on how we can move past that. So let's get right on into it. So before I get started, I wanted to just say that I'm not an actress. Memorizing a lot of lines, a lot of information, a lot of knowledge at one time is not my thing. So if you see me looking at my laptop, don't hold it against me, please. Okay? All right. So first, let's get into what are abandonment issues. So abandonment issues are a form of anxiety and fear of being rejected that occurs when an individual has a strong fear of losing loved ones or being isolated. Also, people with abandonment issues have experienced some sort of loss or trauma that ultimately leads to that abandonment wound. So now let's get into how abandonment wounds are created. So it could be something as simple as let's say when you were a child, a childhood friend of yours that you created a very close bond with moved away. Now, it's not their fault. Obviously, your 7-year-old friend that they had to move away, but your brain does not recognize that. All your brain recognizes is that you loved someone and they left you, or they're no longer around. So that's an example of how an abandonment wound can be created in childhood. Other ways that an abandonment wound can be created is from neglect, emotional unavailability, from your parents or caregivers, your parents or caregivers being physically absent, feeling rejected, whether that's a parent not choosing to be in your life for whatever reason, or even just continuously not being picked for a team in a game as a child. A death of a loved one at a young age can also create an abandonment wound or issue. Hold on, my mouth is dry. Hold on. Okay, so abandonment issues are about feeling disconnected from others. So any event that led to you feeling rejected or feeling not wanted or feeling not important, no matter how small they may have been or seemed at the time, they're now what is creating this abandonment issue that you have. So now let's get into how abandonment issues may show up in your relationships as an adult. Rejecting someone before they reject you. This is one way that your abandonment issues will show their ugly little head in your relationships. So abandonment issues can also be seen as a sense of a defense mechanism, right? So you're trying to protect yourself from being abandoned. Because you have this abandonment wound, whether you were aware of it or not, you will do everything in your power, sometimes consciously, sometimes unconsciously, to make sure that you don't ever feel that pain of abandonment ever again. It's like, let's say if you were to put your hand, like as a child, you might have put your hand on a hot stove and you burnt yourself. You learn not to do that again, right? Because you didn't want to feel that pain again. So it's the same thing. So when you have an abandonment issue, if you're when you're dating someone and you sense any form of rejection, like I'll just give a quick example. Like for me, I can feel when the energy's off or when the energy shifts or like when something is just not quite right. So when you have an abandonment issues and you're able to kind of tell when something's off or you feel like something's shifted, or maybe they're not texting you as much or contacting you as much, they don't want to see you as much, you're going to dip up out of there. Because again, you don't want to feel that pain of rejection and abandonment. And sometimes it might not even be It might not even be what it seems. So you may take it as, okay, this is a sign like they don't want me anymore, or they're not really that into me, or whatever the case may be. So you may try to leave and reject them before they reject you, but then whole time they might have just, you never know what the reason is, but it could have been a very valid reason for whatever they did that made you feel like they were rejecting you. But because of this abandonment issue, you're going to try to run, not even try to, you're going to run before they can potentially hurt you, reject you, and abandon you. You may even find someone who seems like a perfect partner. Like, obviously no one is perfect, but they check off a lot of boxes on your list, you know? But because of those little abandonment wounds and issues, you're going to go searching for faults and red flags, and you might even make a green flag, a red flag, again, so that you can leave them before they leave you. Another way abandonment issues may show up in your adult relationships is you not getting close to others. You avoiding any type of really deep intimacy. And I don't mean just sexual intimacy. Again, another defense mechanism so that you can potentially protect yourself from being hurt and being abandoned. So someone with abandonment issues or abandonment wounds may view it as, okay, if I don't let anyone get that close to me, like they can step foot in the door, but that's about it. Like once you start to try to get too deep, you're out of there. Someone with abandonment issues views that as like, okay, if I don't let them get too close, then if they do leave, it won't hurt as bad. So another way is clinginess or quick attachments to people, codependency, people pleasing, right? So this is the complete opposite of being avoidant of getting too close. This is you cling on to people for dear life so that with the hopes of they don't leave you. If you focus, like someone with abandonment issues may think, if I focus all of my energy on them and I give them all that they need and that they want, then maybe they won't want to abandon me. They won't want to leave me. Before I get into some ways to overcome abandonment issues that I found, I wanted to tell a quick story on how I realized that I still, this wound wasn't healed. Because again, I made a video on this last year. So I started to do work on my abandonment issues last year. Thought I healed them. This year, turns out not. Okay, so hopefully, from this story, you may also pinpoint little things that you may do if you do the same things. So you'll know okay, yeah, I still got to work on this. So last year, I really took a lot of time for myself. I wasn't really trying to build many deep, meaningful relationships with people. I was really just focused on honestly surviving. I moved from Baltimore to Houston with my 5-year-old baby girl. And it was rough. I'm not going to lie. It was a challenge. So I didn't really have time to really focus on trying to build deep, meaningful relationships with people. So now in 2023, where I have a better mindset, I have a little bit more wiggle room and freedom, I decided, you know what, I'm going to jump out there and try to meet some people, meet some girls, meet some women, because I definitely know the importance of having your soul circle, having that foundation, having that group of people that you vibe with, that get you, etc. So I reached out to this girl I made a post on Facebook, this friendship group or whatever. Met this girl, we talked a little bit, we set up a lunch date. So we went out to lunch, and it was good. I felt like we clicked. Our sense of humors were the same, we could just talk, and it was cool. Afterwards, she checked on me a little bit. I checked on her, whatever the case may be. But it would take her hours, maybe sometimes days to respond. And then it was a time where she didn't respond, but I saw her on Instagram, and that triggered me. Real bad. Triggered me like this was my man. And I'm okay, What is this, Kiana? You barely know this girl. Y'all only went out to lunch one time. Like, why are you being so triggered by being ignored? Ding, ding, ding. Abandonment issues. So, that situation definitely showed me, like, we still have some healing to do, girl, because this should not be affecting you this deeply. And honestly, like, you can't control what other people do. Giving someone ignoring you and you being triggered by it and really being that upset, you're letting other people control your emotions. Like, you have no control over what other people do. And again, this is a quote unquote potential friend. This ain't your man. Like, get it together. So yeah, that situation, I was just like, once I realized, I'm like, okay, I'm being very triggered by being ignored, which is making me feel like I'm not important. Like, oh, so what, I'm not good enough to go out with you? Like, stuff like that, whatever. And so I was just like, okay, all right, I got some more work to do. I'm gonna just take that on the chin, you know. So now that my little rant is over, let's get into how to overcome abandonment issues. So the first step, or one step, I won't say the first step, but I'll say one step is to determine your attachment style. So, your attachment style is developed during your childhood and determined typically by how you were cared for, treated, and how your needs were or weren't met by your caregivers. Your attachment style affects how you connect and build and form relationships with others. Typically, people with abandonment issues that have not healed them have an anxious, avoidant, or disorganized attachment style. If you would like me to do a more in-depth video on attachment styles, I definitely will. Just drop a comment down below. Also, while you're at it, don't forget to smash that like button. You know, it helps to get these videos out to others. If you like my content, thank you. But identifying your attachment style can give you insight into your fears, making you more aware of your behaviors. So over time, you can learn to connect and build and form relationships with others in a healthier way. I'll also leave a link to our website where you can discover your attachment style in the description box. Now, another tip is to discover where these abandonment issues came from. So again, it's like, were your caregivers emotionally unavailable? Like, were they there physically, but it wasn't really that much affection in the home? They didn't really tell you, I love you as much as you needed to hear. They just weren't really present emotionally. Did you witness your parents separate or go through a divorce? Did most of your partners choose to end the relationship, therefore leaving you to feel abandoned and rejected? Were you rejected by peers, whether as a child, a teenager, etc.? Like, no one really wanted to hang out with you, those things like that, and so on. So if you watch this video fully, which I hope you did, you watched it to this point, do some research and become aware of where that abandonment issue stems from. Because again, the only way to heal anything is to know the root cause of it. Because you can do everything to try to skate around it, but if you don't know what caused it and heal that pain and heal that trauma and heal that wound, then you're always going to come full circle right back around to the same thing, which I'm a prime example of that, because like I said, I did all of this last year, and this year I'm back in the same place. But yeah, you definitely need to do some research, take some time to think and discover and really understand yourself. Take some time to journal. I feel like I mentioned journaling in every video. That's because I'm like a journaling advocate. Like, I love journaling. Take some time to journal and really ask yourself, like, okay, when was the first time I felt rejected? I felt abandoned. I felt isolated. Think all the way back to your childhood and notate every single time. But notating back to that very first time, if you can remember, that'll help you to really understand, like, okay, this is why this is why that. Things will just start, it'll just start to fit together like a puzzle, you know? Another way to overcome abandonment issues is therapy, to understand your attachment patterns, which will bring awareness to behavioral patterns in relationships. I personally have chosen to go back to therapy to help heal these abandonment issues and really try to. I want to get an outside, unbiased opinion on like the way that I am in relationships and how, because obviously I'm making this video, I see that these abandonment issues are rearing their ugly head again. So I'm like, okay, let me get an expert opinion in different things on how I can, work through this. Even though I'm not gonna lie, sometimes I be feeling like I can ask better questions. Like certain times when I say certain things to my therapist, I'm like, are you gonna ask me why that is? Are you gonna ask me like where did that come from? Are you gonna ask me like sometimes I just be in my head like, ma'am, I can do this better. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, the bottom line is the key to processing and working through your abandonment issues is awareness. Coming to terms with you having abandonment issues, acknowledging the fact that you have abandonment issues, and using tools such as videos, ding ding ding, books, articles, and outside resources such as therapists to resolve these issues and help you to be able to form attachments and relationships in a healthy manner. Alright guys, so I hope that you thoroughly enjoyed this video. That is all the information I have today on abandonment issues. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please drop it down below. Do not hesitate. Again, smash that like button so I can get this engagement up and get this video out to other people as well. Again, my name is Key, and thank you so much for joining me on my journey. I be